I'm Dr. Jeffrey Davenport, ER doctor, and have built a firm, accounting and advisory firm, over 30 years. And this is a lecture series on a specific topic, control. It comes from an original lecture I had, which is why do most doctors fail financially and economically, or 90% of doctors fail because of lack of efficiency, lack of control, a lack of safety. And I apologize, today we're going to be talking about safety. There's already a video lecture on control and efficiency that you can go to the YouTube, my YouTube channel, and pull down if you like. So research has been done, started in 1971 by the Economic Association of Health Professionals and the Economic Lives of Doctors to find out what is the state of doctors. They found that most doctors fail financially as not being able to maintain their lifestyle that they had while they're working if they stop working. In other words, they hadn't developed enough savings or assets to support them without them having to create an income completely or additionally supplementary from work. So, when they did the research, again, lack of efficiency, lack of control, and the final one, again, lack of safety. So the idea is that most of why doctors lose is unnecessary expenses or unnecessary losses. So there are necessary expenses, but there's a lot of things because of inefficiencies where there's unnecessary losses, things that doctors could have retained. So the average doctor loses a minimum of $1 million in their career, physician, dentist, because they're in the wrong economic structures. And one of the things they do, one of the subsets of structures they take, is they take too much or unnecessary risk in their investments and or savings. Why does this happen? Well, before we go into why this happens, we need to establish a core philosophy, and that is that doctors should not take any more risk than they need to get to the point where they need to be. That point we call critical capital mass, which is the amount that you need that you're economically free. What is economically free? You're able to live the rest of your life without being able to live based on your savings and investments, not having to work to survive. Now, whether you work or not is another issue. I'm not saying that, by the way, is a little tangential, but I personally don't believe in retirement. I think you live till you die. You contribute till you die. You do something. You're active until you die. So the financial definition is not, do I retire or do I not? It is, am I in a position where I'm free to do what I want, when I want? I'm not economically bound to do something. So if I'm still practicing, I'm practicing because I want to, not because I have to. If I go another direction, I'm doing that, whether I do research or whether over the years we've seen doctors do all kinds of things. We've had doctors just stop charging and continue to practice. We've had doctors disappear to an island saying, here's my P.O. box, please send me checks. I just bought a boat. Send the money to buy the boat, And so we've had, I remember there was a plastic surgeon that really loved being in the lab in t-shirts and Birkenstocks, but he wanted to make money, so he became a plastic surgeon. As soon as he had critical capital mass, he actually went back and went into the lab at a university and did research and made virtually nothing doing it and was happy as could be, because that's really where his heart was. But he was economically free to do that. So that's what we're talking about. So in the issue of safety then, why it is a lack of safety, which implies people taking too much risk in their portfolio. So if we start at that idea that don't take any more risk than you have to get where you need to be, if you don't know that philosophy, and if you don't have a way to measure and metric out that philosophy, then you've got a problem. You don't know how much risk is too much, how much is enough. Because what we're trying to get when we get rate of return within whatever we're putting our money into, we're really not looking for the rate of return. We're aiming for economic freedom. Money, finances, investments, return are all just tools to get us to that state of economic freedom, which we call critical capital mass. So to be able to determine that, we have to know, first of all, what do we need? How much is that? What is critical capital mass? When are we going to get there realistically? How are we going to do it? And what's the most efficient way to do it? So until we have a plan, we're basically in the dark. And since we don't know how much we need, we don't know how much longer we can work, we don't know what we need to quit, we don't know when we're going to get there, we just have unknowns which lead to insecurity. Insecurity leads to desperation. Desperation leads to a lack of understanding, as well as a lack of understanding. So then we make decisions based on, well, let's get as much as we can, because we just know we need something, and so I need to get as much as I can, and then we start making inappropriate decisions. We expose our money to inappropriate risk, because again, it's not the risk that we want, it's the return. To get more return, historically, more return, higher returns means higher risk. And so we really don't want the risk, we want the return. In other words, if we could get the highest return and take no risk, that's what we would want. But we're not aiming for an endless amount of money, we're aiming for enough that we can live a life. In other words, we want to be to critical capital mass. We want to be a point of economic freedom as quickly as possible, with as little risk as possible. So on average, it takes 15 to 20 years to reach critical capital mass if you're in the right structure that's the most efficient, that's retaining unnecessary losses, saving the money, and getting 2 to 3 points above inflation. So it's like Will Rogers said, I'm more concerned about the return of my money than I am the return on my money. So the first thing you have to do in terms of a plan and creating efficiencies is retain unnecessary lost dollars. Dollars that don't need to be lost. So that the more efficiency you have, the less risk you have to take. So the idea is to maximize the amount that you're saving through efficiency and control, and then take no more risk than you need to get to the point of critical capital mass. So you determine what critical capital mass is. What's the dollar amount? The average doctor needs about 2.57 million, and that changes depending on what lifestyle you're used to being accustomed to. So knowing what you need to quit, then calculating the efficiencies to save the maximum amount of money that you can, and then assuming the lowest amount of risk that you can, and then if that gets you to the point of critical capital mass in an acceptable period of time, that's enough risk, and then you invest appropriately at that risk level. If you can't, through maximum efficiency and 2 to 3 points above inflation assumed, get critical capital mass in an acceptable period of time, now you have to increase the risk, and then but don't increase it any more than you need to be able to reach that amount in an acceptable period of time, which you can define. So safety as such is that you can define what you need, the amount of risk you need to take, and you need to take no more than necessary, because when you take unnecessary risk, you end up having unnecessary loss. So the problem is, and the question you might ask is, well, I want as much money as I can, and the question I would ask you is why? And you say, well, it just seems like it would be a good idea. But the evidence doesn't bear that out. So in the study of over 500,000 doctor lives since 1971, it's been found that doctors don't end up changing their lifestyle when they retire. Meaning, if you have, let's say you won the lottery and you had $20 million in the bank, based on the statistics of doctors, they're not going to increase their lifestyle. They're going to live the life that they had. So, you're not going to all of a sudden, if you're a person that's a $10,000 a month lifestyle, you're not going to automatically start needing $20,000. You're also not somebody that's going to need $5. If you're a $50,000 lifestyle, you're not going to drop down to $20. So critical capital mass can be defined by your behavior that's been studied, is that you live the lifestyle. What you're most satisfied with is the lifestyle that you had while you were working, when you're in the stage of working out of necessity to moving to the stage of economic independence. Whether you're working in a field that requires income or that gives you income or not. So that, and then that safety, when you define the amount of risk or that you need to take, or the kind of, which equates to the kind of return you need, then you can pick the appropriate portfolios, institutional portfolios, that are managed scientifically to reach that. So, well, thank you. That's the end of this discussion. Of course, there's going to be more. We're going to go on to additional topics in the near future.